I want to kind of give you a little quick overview of what you can expect to hear today. I'm going to start off giving you a little bit of the history of my work with the Heidelberg Project, and then to share with you a little bit of what this work has taught us over the 28 years that it has been in existence now in the form of a new ology. And then finally, I'm going to hopefully integrate a few principles of metaphysics into the equation of the work that we have been doing all of this time. I like to start with a quote by Margaret Mead. You can read it for yourself. I don't read slides. But the obvious concept behind this is that most great changes and ingenuity and ideas had to start with an idea with one person or perhaps a few. Tyree Guyton was born and raised in the Heidelberg Project community. In that particular area, you have a devastation that is unprecedented. 48207 is pegged as the third most dangerous zip code in the country. It was his grandfather who put a paintbrush in his hand at the age of 9, and he said it was like his world was on fire. Here's what we're dealing with in that community. 55% African American male mortality rate. How does that translate? What does that actually mean? It means young men between the ages of 14 and 28 have only a 45% chance of escaping death or jail. 90% of the people in that area live below the poverty rate. And then the unemployment rate, 75%. The Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan conducted their own study in this particular area. And what they determined is that it would take a bold revitalization response to help reverse the devastation in that community. What that is really telling us is that the people, beyond the things, had lost hope. And as Tyree said in one of the documentaries that we've done, the people become a reflection of their community. This gives you some idea and indication of what we're dealing with in that particular community. I'm sorry, my ears are really little, and so this little headset continues to move around. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so you have an idea, but yet this community, 48207, was the last residential area of Black Bottom, historic Black Bottom, where you had over 300 businesses by African American people, and it was a thriving community. It was a community that people took pride in. It was one of the only areas in the city of Detroit where African Americans and minorities could live when they were seeking jobs in the automobile industry. So, here's what happens. In 1993, I took a wrong turn down Heidelberg Street. I was actually trying to turn down a street called Benson, and a car was on my tail and literally forced me down Heidelberg Street. I was off my beaten path because I was procrastinating going back to work. I was a loan officer at that time at Michigan National Bank. Who remembers that? I think they're Bank of America now. And I had bad news for my clients, and so I didn't want to go back to work. So I just began driving around a neighborhood because I started to feel a sense of nostalgia about this community. And then I remembered that that's where my father used to live. So these memories as being a little girl in this community began kind of flooding my head, and that's how I started interweaving into that area. So once I took that turn down the street, I rolled down my window. My mouth dropped. I couldn't believe what I had seen. And I literally said, unbeknownst to me, to the artist, what in the hell is all of this? And I remember thinking to myself, I said, boy, you need to get a job because you obviously have too much time on your hands. Now these are my thoughts. This is what's rolling through my head. And little did I know, guys, after a 14-year career, that I would give up profit sharing, all of what I had started to accomplish as a young African-American woman, the kinds of things that your parents are proud of. A year later, I gave it all up to come and work with this man a man who literally built a house without a platform. He had no foundation. So together our work began. Now I want you to just think about the electricity between two people. First of all, he's from the east side of Detroit. I'm from the west side of Detroit. And if you know anything about the history of East and West, one declares superiority over the other. So that's where we're meeting. I'm educated slightly. His education basically comes from the streets. So we come together, and there's this electrical current that's going on. And this current begins to build the work of the Heidelberg Project. So what did I do? I helped us to define a platform. We came up with a vision, a mission. We've been a nonprofit 501c3 since 1988. We have a board of directors. We do all kinds of things. We do all kinds of things. But we have always been overshadowed by the sheer majesty and magicalness of this whole street. And that's what people place their thoughts and their emphasis on mostly. What do? Programs. We're in the schools, K through 12. If you know anything about the Detroit area schools, you will know that most of the schools no longer have art and creativity. I had it when I was younger. It doesn't mean you're going to become an artist, but it does mean that it opens up your creative imagination to further whatever it is that you might want to do. We also have different kinds of activities that we do on the street, and this work began building. So starting in 1986, I get involved in 1993, and for the next 15 years, we're growing this thing called the Heidelberg Project. Now, after this period of time that we have spent getting knocked down bulldozers in 1991, bulldozers again in 1999, and the project keeps coming back. And each time it came back stronger and more profound. Now I want to stop for a minute and I want you to think about the history of the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit, being overshadowed mostly by the Industrial Revolution, the automobile industry, has always been a city of amazing creativity. Original ideas are born in Detroit all the time. And you had to be good when you were, from Detroit. Like the back of my business card, when I travel and I do lectures and people say, "You're from Detroit? Really?" So I put on the back of my business card, "Bitch, please, I'm from Detroit." Right? Because my position about Detroit is that you had to be good. And if we could ever learn how to wear our raw, gritty, reputation as a badge of honor, we could do great things. And see, this is what I want you to think about when I ask you to think about what this man has done. True, most of us didn't get it, most of us didn't like it, and we damn sure didn't consider it art. And I was one of them. And I remember seeing one of Tyree Guyton's paintings in a corner one day, and it was the most beautiful, profound paintings, and I just thought, man, why don't you paint like this? If you painted like this, you wouldn't be in so damn much trouble. But he said it was too easy. It was much more exciting to him to find a way to use his art to reverse some of the devastation that was happening in his community. He came up with this term called Heidelbergology. And I think you've already read the definition. And I want you to know that universities, the University of Michigan, Harvard, Wayne State University, they are embracing this concept because what, in fact, Tyree Guyton has done is that he has come up with another new art form. Maybe not new, because I don't really think anything is ever new, but new to our generation. And that idea of taking found and recycled materials and picking them up, dusting them off, adding color, reconfiguring them, and incorporating them into the fabric of an urban community. That is what he did. But it was a metaphor to help us to understand how we could begin recycling the minds of the people. And you see, it would take a bold revitalization response like the Heidelberg Project, and I became captivated by that. because prior to turning down that street, I had studied metaphysics for 12 years. And now I had an opportunity to have a physical representation of now what this work would actually mean. How would I infuse some of the principles that I had learned into this work called the Heidelberg Project? So it became a challenge for me. And it was the challenge of the lifetime. And I have to say to you that, you know, I have had butterflies in my stomach for 20 years, 21 years in the work of the Heidelberg Project. So now let's think about Heidelbergology for a minute. And again, I'm going to read this because I want you to feel the impact of this. It's defined as the study of artistic materials, i.e. found objects, incorporated into the fabric and structure of an urban community, and then the effects on that community. So out of that definition are three principles. Three principles are born: abstract advocacy, art as a medicine, and art as a catalyst for change. And these are not just principles or practices that we made up. This is as a result of 28 years in this work and in this community. Before I go there, I'd like to say that the National Endowment for the Arts have begun a definition for the work that we're doing. There's two that they're playing with right now: creative placemaking, you may have heard of it, and the other one is art as a social practice. So today, in 2014, art is no longer just art for art's sake. Art is now more about how we can use the creative principles to make change, to create change, to awaken the human spirit. So, abstract advocacy. What does that mean? And how have we proven it? Abstract advocacy is the introduction of new information that in the short term changes attitudes, but in the long term it changes behavior. Before I flip to the next slide, I want to give you one example. There's a woman who's lived on Heidelberg Street for 26 years of our 28 years. And she was mean, and she went on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she talked about it, and she just hated it for 25 years. Then Tyree Guyton went to live in Switzerland for a year. I was left with the project, not only the function of the project, but now the street itself. This woman found a way to use the fact that people were coming into the community, and it transformed her. And what she did was she needed to paint her house. So she decided to turn her house into a work of art. She invited people to come and sign her home in exchange for a donation. Okay, that's what she did. Then she began selling water. And this is all of what Tyree says is part of the medicine. And she was quoted as saying, "I spent so much time being angry when I could have been having fun. Now I meet people from all over the world without leaving my front porch. But it took us 25 years. Justin grew up on Heidelberg Street. We mentored him since he was 2 years old, comes from 3 generations of otherwise behavior. I'll just leave it like that. You can use your imagination. But he was raised by the Heidelberg Project. Today, Justin is on a sports scholarship at Central Michigan University. He is studying biochemistry, and he's an all-AB student. That is a product of a full lifetime with the Heidelberg Project. Art as a medicine. This man is in and out of jail. They read about Tyree, they see him in jail from their jail cells. Because he never left the community, they come and they say, "Can you give me a few dollars?" And he says, "No, but I can give you a broom." You help and you earn. So this is a way of trying to rehabilitate the conditions of the community. Again, we're talking about recycling the human spirit. We're talking about art as a catalyst for change. We're proving that this ology does in fact work, but it's not a quick fix. Another gentleman who lived in the neighborhood who never even thought about getting up to paint his own house. And then, of course, we're infusing that with people from the outside. We're building, hence the polka dots. We're celebrating all races, all different types of people, because in a global society, that is what it's going to take. After all, we're all just a skin bag. If you peel back the layers, you'll see that we all are red. We're dispelling fear. There are 252 countries, I believe, in the world. 140 are documented as having been at the Heidelberg Project. And we're creating common ground. Lisa Rodriguez has been with us for 6 years now. We started with her in a class, and we can't get rid of her. I love that. I love when my employees leave for higher or greener pastures, which I encourage, which I promote, because I want to bring out the best in them. And they come back and they say to us, there was nothing like being at Heidelberg. You brought out the best in us. That is what this artwork is doing. And of course, we have all people who work in the community with us. And it's not easy, don't get me wrong. Most of the people in that area are strung out on drugs, or they're older people trying to hang on because they've got no place else to go, or you've got squatters, landlords that are having women with their children running in and out. It is very, very challenging, which means that creative placemaking is not a cookie-cutter solution. What it is it's work and it's consistency. But look what we do. They come from all over the world, 275,000 people annually, which made us the third most visited cultural attraction or destination in the city of Detroit. You would have thought that the city of Detroit would have got on board and said, how do we capitalize on this? But what we do, unfortunately, because we have a confidence problem, is that we look in the backyards of other people to try and see what they have done to in a way to bring it into our city, when we really should be focusing on the treasures and the history of our city being a city of original ideas. And yes, they do come from all over the world. The economic impact. What has the Heidelberg Project actually done? $3.4 million in the Wayne County region, and this was done by a study from Williams College in Massachusetts. And then $2.4 million in the immediate area. It equates to jobs, but we have been asked and forced to do this on our own because people don't understand this kind of work. But that's why I know that this is a legacy in the making. But now what? They're setting us on fire. 9 fires in 11 months. 9 fires destroying the art installations of the Heidelberg Project. Why? What does it mean? So I leave you with this quote. Does it mean we stop? Absolutely not. What Tyree Guyton said is that I have another new canvas, and we will continue to create, because in the end, our work is not about things. It is, in fact, the power of recycling the human spirit. And I thank you.